Hi, good morning. This is Lakhi Singh coming to you live from my offices in Mayfair today. I thought I'd actually show you around a little bit. I'm just in the reception area now. It's a bit too early for a reception to arrive now. They usually start at, they normally start at 9 o'clock in the morning. So I'm just entering into the boardroom. And today we're going to do the drive time from here. And we were very lucky today because you've got Lakhi Singh on his own. All my time today. Vijay Sal is busy today. He's got some problems with his helicopter again, and I think he's overdone it in all the trips back and forth between Dubai and various other countries. So I think he's taking a little bit of a rest today. I think his chopper isn't really as good as it should be, to be honest, to be able to do so many long flights. So I think he might need to get a new one. So here we have it. We're just in the boardroom. I've been to Pret and got my ginger shot and turmeric latte and a naughty croissant. But I did actually manage to go to the gym for about an hour before we had this session this morning. So I hope you're all well. Let me see if I can find a steady place to put this phone down so you can see me properly. 1 second. So hope you all had a great weekend. And today's topic is how to buy properties from LPA receivers, how to buy a multi-million-pound property portfolio from receivers. And I understand that it's a very hot topic at the moment because there's a lot going on behind the scenes with the LPA receivers, which a lot of people don't know about. So I'm going to cover all of that with you. So let me just steady my phone 1 second. There we go. How's that? So I'm gonna have my turmeric shot first thing in the morning. This should probably make my voice less croaky, hopefully. How's that? Is that a lot better? How's that? Is that a lot better? Sort of done the trick. It sort of seems to be going very good to very bad. From very good to very bad. So hope you're all well. Had a great weekend. Now I'm going to move on to how you can go about getting properties from LPA receivers, how that works. But today I'm going to spend a bit more time today giving you an introduction about who Lakhi Singh, the property fixer, is, what the whole setup is, what we're about, how do we work, how people find us. So I'm going to try and give you a slightly bigger picture overview of what we're about. So Lakhi Singh, the property fixer, the whole thing came out from an idea because nearly all the websites and the type of work that I've been doing for the last 15 years or so has been around helping people with the complex property matters, ranging from finance to litigation to a complex sale to some sort of consultancy to reduce costs of tax. So what we decided to do is actually brand Lakhi Singh, the property fixer, because of all that, all the sort of knowledge and experience we have in all those sectors. So today I'm going to attempt to try and bring a lot of that together and try to give you a better understanding of what Lakhi Singh, the property fixer, does. So I'm going to do more of a formal presentation today, but I'm going to be stopping in between to take some ginger shots. A bit of a croaky throat today. Excuse me. So hope you're all well. Really excited to actually talk about the background of the company and what we do. So what's happened is about a year ago, we decided to set up the property fixer or the property and business solutions community, the turnkey property business solutions community, because we've got an inkling that the property market is not as it seems. Things are going to tighten. Things aren't really going to stay static or just go up and up and up forever and ever. So our take on the market is that things are going to get a little bit more complicated, and there's a likelihood that there could be a slump or a crash at the beginning part or the mid part of next year. And the main reasons we think that is, number one, is that interest rates have been low for a long, long time, and the only way for them now is up. So that's one major factor. The second major factor is stamp duty. There were stamp duty incentives given by the government during the duration of the lockdown, and I don't think that's actually going to be happening anymore, or it's been stopped now. So anybody that could benefit from it has benefited, and there was a artificial boost in property sales for the last year or so because of that. That's the second reason I think there's going to be a tightening in the market, and there's going to be ample opportunity for a lot of people that are looking to purchase out there. The third reason that I think property prices are going to tighten is that obviously now the tax benefits of property as an individual property owner are not as they used to be, because quite an important law was passed which doesn't allow you to offset your income against the interest that you're borrowing with. So it just means that your cost of running a property portfolio as an individual is not necessarily cost effective depending on your tax position. So there we have it, just a few factors. And another critical factor, I think, is the furlough. A lot of people have been furloughed, and it lasts till September. And the end of September is only a few weeks away. And after that, a lot of people that were temporarily sort of held by companies may be let go of, and they'll be looking to negotiate something with those people, and they may not really have the same terms or employment. So there's definitely going to be a tightening in there's going to be more unemployment come end of September and early part of next year, because a lot of businesses may try to keep their staff but may not be able to maintain the level of cash flow to be able to sustain their businesses. So quite a lot of factors there for you to think about in terms of why the market might tighten. So let me just have another shot now. Hello. It's a beautiful beauty of being drive time. You can enjoy a nice cup of turmeric latte, the nice croissant, because it all adds to the Monday morning crunch. So giving you a bit of history as to why we think the Fixer brand is an important brand to be helping people in the market, and why we think from a strategic point of view, from an economic point of view, what we're doing as a company, as an individual actually, with so many different parts of the company, could be very beneficial as a holistic solution to a lot of property investors out there, not just from buying a portfolio point of view, but also if you've got a portfolio, how to potentially save it as well under difficult circumstances. So let me tell you a little bit more about my history, who Lakhi Singh is, the Fixer. So my background is working in corporate life for about 20 years. My first job was at Gibbs & Hawkes in Savile Row, which is actually literally a 5-minute walk from here now. because being in the heart of Mayfair. The second thing is I actually did go off and live in Italy for a while, so I'm fluent in Italian. So io parlo italiano senza problemi. Se vuoi parlare italiano, posso fare tutto questo presentazione in italiano se vuoi. So just showing off a bit of my Italian there, but I do love speaking Italian. I can also sing in Italian as well, but I'll spare you for the moment. But I do know about 3 or 4 songs in Italian. So they're by a gentleman called Lucio Battisti. Lucio Battisti is a famous singer from the, I think, 80s, 60s and 70s. And he did quite a lot of famous tunes which are sort of well sung by a lot of Italian people when they get together on holidays or parties, etc. One of them is Dieci ragazze per me. Another one is Nonne Francesca. And another one is Acqua Azzurra, Acqua Chiara. They're the 3 ones which I think if I practiced a little bit, I could probably memorize and sing the whole tune. The funny thing is I can't sing generally in most languages, but I can sing in Italian. So I can't really sing that well in Hindi or English. And the words normally escape me, but for some reason Italian, I always seem to remember the words and somewhat remember the tune, or maybe you like to think so. Okay, so going back to the topic, a bit of background about myself. So 20 years in corporate life as a project manager, IT, worked for organizations like Gives and Hawks as a operations manager, my first job, not too far from here. Then lived in Italy for about 4 or 5 months to learn Italian. Came back, then I worked for quite a few large corporates for NCR, AT&T. I was the head of call center for 2 years. Then I moved on to becoming a call center manager. Then I became the head of IT for Europe, Middle East, and Africa for AT&T NCR for the bid solutions outsourcing side of the company. And became an expert in something called Lotus Notes Domino. And then I got headhunted by Deloitte to head up their global internet presence and their IT for global taxation. So I had a really, really cool job where I would actually go around the world, traveling and presenting various countries to all the head IT directors for various jurisdictions, and also talk to them about web strategy and IT strategy and tax technical strategies, etc., and how we can actually improve our IT infrastructure so that we could win more business. So that was quite exciting, actually. So while I was at Deloitte, one of my first ideas was to set up a training company. I got permission from Deloitte to set up a training company to do training abroad in various countries, including Pakistan, to improve management skills. Unfortunately, that business didn't go that well. Then I decided to get into property, spent about a year researching property. And then I built up a portfolio in the first couple of years, made £1 million. And from there, went from strength to strength, left my daytime jobs. I had quite a lot of good consultancy roles working for House of Parliament, Department of Education, Guildford Council. So I left all of that to do property full time. Unfortunately, got hit by the crash in 2007, 2008, and had a problem with one major person who was owed money to, and who decided to actually come after Lakhi Singh at the time, 15 years ago, and said that we're going to make you and your family suffer if you don't make these payments back to us. Which at that time I couldn't, because the market had pretty much crashed. So ended up losing a multi-million-pound property portfolio, losing the house, going through some major personal turmoil for 4 or 5 years. So since that time, myself and another partner, we got together, we started helping people with the property problems because I'd actually had my own problems, and that experience bode well. And so we've helped literally thousands of people with property portfolios now. But I am actually going to munch into my croissant because it is drive time. Or should I have it afterwards? Because I think it's going to be a bit too crunchy sounding. But it is tempting. I do have one here. Can crunch one. Too irresistible. We're back again now. Apologies, I couldn't resist. So after losing the portfolio, I had help from a consultancy that came in to help me. Then I joined up with that director of that consultancy, and we formed something called Rescue My Properties, immediate bank claims, management consultants for you, and various other estate agencies that sell properties, including LPA Properties, which we're about to launch. So we've become pretty much like a comprehensive one-stop shop go-to place where people can come, and we can help people deal with their property matters. Those property matters can be anything from a legal issue to a sale issue or a finance issue, or even a growth issue, a cost reduction issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and give you some case studies today as well of the type of clients we've helped, sort of things we've done. And in between, I'm going to be also trying to grab this croissant because it's looking rather tempting on the right side here as we speak. So let's see if I can multitask. It's not always possible. I'll try my best to do that. Okay, so where should we start? So the 4 or 5 key areas that we specialize in is, well, the topic actually for today is how to get properties, build up a multi-million pound portfolio from LPA receivers. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go a bit deeper than that and tell you across the board what we do first, and then I'll give you a better idea about how you can utilize our skills to give you access to the tools that we have to be able to help you grow your portfolio. So first I'm going to cover is a lot of the litigation side. So all the topics I'm going to cover is, number 1 is litigation, stopping repossession, LPA receivers, negative equity, all these type of topics, anything that's a legal problem. The second thing I'm going to cover is bridging finance and development funding and business loans. The third topic I'm going to cover is doing quick sales or getting fast sale across the board, over the line, I mean. So I'm going to try and cover as many topics as I can, or much information or case studies I can within those areas. But you got to excuse me a second again. I'm just going to munch into my croissant, but this time I'm going to spare you having to watch me. So give me 1 second. Back again. That's rather delicious. Okay. So on the litigation side, there's 2 types of repossession. One is for a personal homeowner, and the other one is for a commercial owner of properties, which could be buy-to-let properties or an office block or industrial unit. but anything that's been lent on an unregulated basis. So I'm not sure if most of you are aware, but unregulated lending is where loans been given by a company that's done on a commercial basis. But the laws related to commercial lending are very different from regulated lending. Regulated lending is typically when you buy something to live in. And if you're buying something to live in, that's a whole total different gambit. It's a whole different way of doing things. So what you need to do is if you're living in a house, then the court system tends, on the whole, I'd say, tends to be a little bit more favored in terms of the owner of the property, less to the bank, but not completely. Whereas if you are a commercial owner of property, you're regulated, you bought some regulated, unregulated properties, such as a buy-to-let, commercial office premises, then something called the Law of Property Act 1925 applies, and that can actually be, it's very much in the favor of the banks. So you have to be very careful in terms of how you tread in the market, because one false move could be a slippery slope in terms of dealing with the receivers who could potentially eat up your properties. So you can't really know enough about that topic, those topics actually. But just to give you a quick brief, a couple of case studies. We've had pretty much all sorts of regulated type homeowner issues where the homeowner has an ill relative and they haven't been able to work, so they've gone into arrears, and or somebody's passed away, or they've lost their job, or they've gone into depression. We've had sort of every single type of issue you can think of, pretty much. But I don't want to mention all of them because there are quite a lot of sad stories about what people have had to go through. So it's not always easy. So anybody living in a house, typically what happens is the general situation is you've gone into arrears. The bank will then call you, send you a letter saying you're in arrears, you need to pay us, otherwise we've got the right to repossess. And they do try, a lot of banks do try and be helpful and try to negotiate a deal or a repayment package or a holiday. So there are options out there to try and deal with the problem. So knowing what to do and how to do it is quite important here. So that's the basic sort of situation that exists in terms of helping people with property problems or homeowners who actually face repossession. The second situation where a homeowner may have a problem is that they're in arrears, they've been taken to court, and the court said, "Oh, you got 56 days to either sell the property or finance it or come up with a solution." We get quite a lot of these sort of cases where people come to us about 5 or 10 days before they're about to get repossessed. So that's scenario 2. So we typically charge a fee and we assess their situation, and we will help them to get out of that predicament with the best strategy possible. And the toughest situation is when the bailiffs have already been appointed, so the eviction's already been given, or after 28 days or 56 days have passed, and after on the 56th day, letters have been sent by the bailiffs say that on this date we're going to come and evict you, which could be 10 days or 20 days after the date by which you were meant to have left the property and given it up. So what happens is near that time, in between that time, we get a lot of people come to us lastminute.com saying, "Can you get us out of that situation?" So we have had a lot of successful case studies, but I'm not going to claim that in those circumstances that the chances of success are the least likely that we're going to be able to actually solve the problem for them. So when they get to that stage, which is at when they get to the stage where the property is about to get repossessed and the bailiffs are just around the corner, a couple of days away, the chances of us getting that property back are the lowest, because we're in a situation where we've got very tight timelines and we have to go to court literally lastminute.com and come up with a solution. Either typically in that situation, it tends to be a sale or a cash with a cash buyer, or the exchange of the property with a cash buyer, or it tends to be a legal issue, a loophole that we've found that vindicates the vendor up to a point. So stopping repossession itself is actually quite a big area. Just give me 1 second. I think somebody might be wanting this boardroom, but I'm going to quickly munch at my croissant as well, because it's got a slide through. So give me about 1 minute and I'll be back. Hi guys, back again. So Lakhi Singh here, talking to you about repossessions now. So the first situation is a homeowner losing their property. So how does that benefit the people watching now, and how can it work? So if you do have cash, you're looking to buy properties in a particular area. Some homeowners may not have a choice, because if they don't sell the property, they will end up losing it to the bailiffs who will sell it. The bank will sell it, and they'll sell it for a very low price. So always try to sell the property yourself and take control of it. Even if you think you're not getting the best price, that's always the best way, rather than actually to leave it to the banks to actually sell it for you, because the likelihood is they'll probably end up sending it for the redemption amount, because they have no interest in terms of how much equity you got in your property. They just want to get their debt back that they've lent you quickly as possible. So they're just going to sell the property for a fire sale. So I've known for properties that are worth 500, the debt's 300, to sell for something like 250. So you have to be very, very careful as a homeowner that you don't get caught off guard. So, but as a buyer, it's a very good opportunity for me to match our organization, to match as the property fixer, a buyer with a seller, and to just make sure that there's a win-win. The seller can get out and they still make enough money to actually move on to a place that's going to give them some sort of a benefit or a lifeline. So a lot to think about if you're in a problematic situation as a homeowner, and potentially a lot of win-wins a buyer can create for sellers who have got a predicament. So it can work, but it is a quite complex negotiation. and believe me, I've done my fair share in that area. Okay, so that covers homeowner repossession. So the next area is called the Law Property Act 1925, which is that if you own a commercial property on a bridge or a buy-to-let or on a business loan from a large bank, investment bank, otherwise, then they can appoint receivers, which are called under the Law Property Act 1925, where they can take your property and they have the power of sale or power of rental collection. So we've covered this topic quite extensively over the last few weeks, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. But basically, if you're looking to buy properties, how do you take advantage of the Law Property Act 1925? The way it would work is not dissimilar from the situation with the regulated loan. We are specialists in disinstructing LPA receivers. So we would talk to the receivers and work out whether they've actually followed the right protocols. If they haven't followed the right protocols, then what we would do is we would then ensure that they gave you enough time to sell your property or finance it. So a typical solution tends to be with receivers is to litigate. That doesn't work. We tend to then have a finance option in place, which I'll come on to finance in a minute. But typical finance option is that we've got bridging companies that can move really quickly on a second charge or a first charge, up to about 75% or 80% loan to value. If you can get them into place, that typically solves the problem for them to take the bank out, and then if they got it on a bridge, they can always sell the property while the property is in their control. And then thirdly, if we have a situation where the properties are, let's say, in receivership hands, but there isn't enough equity in the properties to finance them, legally there isn't any way you can come out of the problem because you've got a issue. Then the third solution is that we would have cash buyers on the table who would potentially do a JV or a friendly buyer that is happy to buy the property to save the day for you. They're not easy to orchestrate, mind you. The finance option and legal options usually tend to be less problematic, but dealing with the buyer, we have got a lot of buyers that we've been dealing with, so we need buyers that are reliable, that understand the process and understand the risks around all of this as well. So it is because the timelines are so tight. It's not an easy process for a buyer who's not experienced in the property market. They can easily misconstrue things if they don't really understand what's going on, because this is an area where anybody who's got a lot of money but doesn't have experience in property might feel a bit fragile. But anybody who's new to the property game, doesn't understand how to buy property that's distressed, may also find it difficult. But anybody who's actually done lots of transactions, understands how receivers work, they'll understand the benefits of what we package and what we do. So that's that topic covered now. I'm going to take another little break because I've got a slightly sore throat. So excuse me a second again. Nothing personal. I'm coming back. Give me 30 seconds. Right, back again. Okay, so we've covered stopping repossession if you're a homeowner and how a buyer could benefit. We've covered stopping repossession if you own unregulated property, commercial property, buy-to-lets, etc., offices, industrial parks, whatever, and how LPA receivers work. What's probably worth doing is probably give me a quick case study of actually how it all comes together as well. I'm going to do one which is quite comprehensive, which covers the regulated, unregulated, the finance, and the sale all at the same time, of a case that I was working on only about a couple of days ago. That's just completed. So everybody's happy. So everything's just come together perfectly. There's still some loose ends to deal with that case, but I'll use that as a case study if that helps. Okay, so one part is a homeowner, one is Law Property Act 1925. And the second part is bridging finance. So how does that work? And the other part is also valuing properties up to make sure there's enough value in it. Now, a couple of rookie mistakes by a lot of landlords is that they tend to put the properties up for sale at a slightly lower price. And so then when it comes to bridging finance, the bridging companies have got a price of X in mind, but because the owner of the properties actually put the price down at a lower price, means that the valuer is valuing them lower. This could actually cause a problem in terms of getting the right valuation. That's quite a critical rookie mistake. A lot of homeowners and also landlords mistake, and actually shoots them in the foot because of the desperate situation they're in. By default, it's a natural sort of gut reaction to value your property a lot lower, just to get it off your books and find the right buyer. But it sometimes can be counterproductive, because if you do need to go back to the finance option, you've left a trace in the market about you having your property up for a certain price, which doesn't really bode well for actually selling that property. So that is something major to be considered and for you to be looking at. Okay, so moving on to finance. Typically speaking, client, let's say, has a $500,000 property. They've got a bridge on a buy-to-let property at 350, and they're looking for another rebridge to pay 350 because they're in arrears. The chances of getting 75% loan to value again, or upvaluing the property at the same level, may not be easy, because the debt now may have accumulated. So to pay off all the arrears, you're going to need the money and enough interest to pay it rollover for the next 6 months. So this is quite a technical exercise, but I'm not going to go into too much detail now, because it will mean that the whole show actually just is going to go on. It's going to get too technical. So one situation is you need to have enough equity in the property to be able to value up enough to be able to get 75%. So we do have lenders that will lend on a desktop, which is actually a major advantage, one of the things we do, which can help and reduce the cost. But bridging is quite an expensive way of getting out of any problem, so it's not a route that I prefer to do, but 9 times out of 10 we end up having to do bridging, because that's the quickest way of dealing with receivers or dealing with a home repossession type issue. Now, there is something called second charge lending. So if you needed money or to pay off your arrears, but you had equity sitting in the property, you could put a second charge on that property If it was a home that you owned, you could put a second charge on it, because normally the residential, the first charge debt tends to be quite cheap lending anyway. But if you want to get more, if you want to get to, let's just say, quick lending as a second charge, you can get second charge lending to raise money against your home to solve a problem with arrears, etc. But it's got to be done in a way that ticks all the boxes, because if you're borrowing money and it's not for business purposes, it's not to probably deal with a property portfolio matter, then it's deemed to be regulated, and then you have to use some sort of regulated lender, and they're a lot slower, and they're not as easy to get what you want in terms of percentages or valuations. So second charge lending is also fraught with a lot of complexities, but we also have a panel of second charge lenders that can lend quickly. So we're always there around the corner to solve the problem. So that's as much as I want to cover with first charge and second charge lending. We also do development lending as well, but in terms of development lending, very simple. The better the net margin for a development, the easier it is to get lending. But if you've got poor credentials, haven't got any experience, we can actually find you developers that will do the project as long as the project's got a good net margin in it. So if those of you don't know what good net margin is, it means that if the cost of buying the project is 2 million, build cost is 2 million, and the resale is 6 million, then the profit on that would be approximately 33%. So profit, anything above 20 to 25% is okay, but anything above that, up to 35% or 40%, lenders will bite your arm off to try and lend to you, because they know that the margin is good, but they'll obviously want to check out the area and the exit, see the exit strong enough and the numbers stack. So development ones are a little bit more complicated because there's a lot more variables involved in terms of getting lending. So that's the second topic covered around finance. Now, the third topic we've got is around valuing properties up for sale. So I've already mentioned the major issue, which is that a lot of homeowners and commercial property owners, they tend to value the properties down to sell it quickly. But if they want to finance it, and they shoot themselves in the foot because they haven't built up enough equity with the sale price to show that they will allow them to get the finance they need. So it's very important that you're not doing things without talking to us, because I could probably be saving you. Normally, I tend to save people 10 times the amount of money I get paid for my work. So for every £5,000 I get paid, my worst case saving tends to be 50,000. Best case saving can be up to 500,000 or 1 million. So can you imagine how amazing that is? Lakhi Singh, the property fixer. You're expecting a cupboard to be fixed for that's worth £1,000, but you're paying me £100, and it's going to be worth £1,000. That's the analogy. I don't fix cupboards really. So I think we've covered quite a lot, and I'm losing my voice a little bit. But I will actually I will take a 2-minute break and then give you a case study of how you could be benefiting from the work we do. But I'm going to give you some case studies of some work we've done, which actually will give a 3-dimensional understanding of what we do, how the seller benefits, how you can benefit, how we benefit as well in terms of the fees we charge to pay for our offices and our staff, etc. So give me literally 1 minute, please, while I just Just have another light turmeric drink. Hi, back again. Hopefully it wasn't too long. I can't talk for too long because I've got a slightly sore throat. Which is good in a way, so it gives me some time to think about all the key points, actually, because there's quite a lot of information to give you. Okay, so I want to now bring everything together. It's a bit like a Blue Peter type moment, where we're going to talk about a homeowner, a buy-to-let property problem, and also raising finance, and also valuing up a property for sale. So we recently had a client in Dorset who's got, basically they've had somebody pass away in their family, and they had a £400,000 house that they lived in, and the debt on the property was about something like 200, and so that was their home. That was one issue. Then they also had a buy-to-let. The buy-to-let had quite a lot of problems because had some issues with the tenants, etc. So this client pretty much had all the problems under the sun. So he was in arrears on his home because his spouse has passed away. He was in arrears on his buy-to-let property because he'd also lost his job. And he also had a property abroad, which somebody had taken over and not given the property back to them. So what we've done is we've gone out and helped the client, number one, to stop the repossession on the home property, on the home. So we've been to court and told the court that we'd refinance. We got them a refinance package. So the biggest problem with the refinance was that the client wasn't able to do that because he couldn't value up the property for the reasons I told you earlier. He made the classic mistake of putting it up for sale for a low price, and when his son tried to buy it from him, the property was valued at 300. So I had to go and clear that up and restructure the whole deal, but we managed to get them the 200,000 that he needed to replace the current lender with another lender called Together. So that one sounds easy, but we ended up having to go to court a couple of times. First time was that we were trying to sell it. Second time was refinancing it. So we did manage to refinance it and solve that one particular problem. So that's pretty cool. So I think the client is like really happy. He's like, I actually hear from him every day now because we've become friends somewhat. Because it's life changing, isn't it? If we can save somebody's house. And then the other problem he had is that he also needed to, eventually this project happened over a period of about 4 years actually. And then he also needed to sell his house at a certain point in time because he didn't have any income and the debt was accumulated over COVID-19. But what I did is the property's worth 400. I restructured and repackaged it, and I managed to get it sold for 500. So the client made £100,000 more than he was anticipating. Hey, so that's amazing news for the client. That's one of my happiest moments, actually, to be honest, that I can actually do that for a client. So that's a pretty amazing case study, actually, for a homeowner. Then on his regulated property, it is worth about 300,000. The debt was about 200. He's been trying to sell it for about 2 or 3 years for 300. No luck. It's been around everywhere. I've managed to get it sold for 260. He did have offers for 235 and 240, but that's the highest offer he had over the last 4 or 5 years. But a bit of offer for 260, and that sale's going through now. So that's sort of case study number 2. How did I do that? A lot of it is just persistence and perseverance and just good intuition about what to do and how to do it and to package up these properties. Third issue is that he had a property abroad, which was taken over by a criminal. We managed to go abroad. So it's a 3-4 year exercise, negotiate, and actually we managed to actually negotiate that property down to so he got that property back from this con person, put them in behind bars and got the property back, and now we've got it up for sale for the client. So is that comprehensive? Yes. Homeowner side, finance covered. So I think that's pretty comprehensive in terms of all the things that we can do. But I will actually be trying to cover more case studies as we go through the process. So there we have it. Just to summarize, if you're facing any sort of issue with LPA receivers, we can help. If you've got, in fact, we also can write off negative equity debt. We've got the ability to put people into an IVA and then negotiate the debt for them and get all their debts written off altogether. So we've got that in our panel of solutions, you could say, available to help you. If you're looking for a second charge, you need it in 24 hours, we can help you to do that. So the list is endless in the type of work we can do to try and help you across many, many areas of business. So our unique strength is with the Law of Property Act 1925, where it's been applied in a very draconian way by the banks to literally just take properties over to spruce up their books. So if you need any help in that area, then we are the leading experts in that to take you to a different level. So that's pretty comprehensive, I think. So second charges. So I'll give you a bit more time now on bridging finance and how that works. So typically speaking, if you got 5 levels of bridging lending, just to sort of get into the technicalities. Level 1 is where you've got very poor credentials, got no job, no income, maybe bankruptcy issue you've had in the past, or etc., discharge in bankruptcy. To the other side, where you're completely vanilla, you're a high earner, maybe a couple £100,000 a year, etc.
Oh, sorry, good morning.
Good morning. I've got somebody at the door. It's going to be 2 minutes. I'm just on a video call. Okay, thanks. So the other one is vanilla. Vanilla means that completely amazing credentials, low loan to value in your portfolio, etc., etc. So we typically have this side of the spectrum where somebody's got a lot of problems. They're elderly, or they've got CCJs, they've got poor income. But the most important thing is that if they've got equity and they've got a good asset, then we've got the potential of saving it, because a lot of our lenders tend to lend to distressed clients, and they will ignore the level of debt, but the rates tend to be a bit higher. So the rates can be anything per month from 0.65, 0.75 going up to 1 or 2%. Whereas on the vanilla side, the rates can be typically around 0.5, 0.6 or 0.75, because if you've got really clean credentials, they love lending to you at a cheaper rate because they know they're going to get their money back, and they've got a big portfolio, so they don't need much security. Whereas on this side, they like to take as much security as possible to cover themselves, just in case the vendor does something untoward. So what we do is very comprehensive, and we have lenders, anything from this side to that side. So hope that's actually covered all the points around the Law of Property Act 1925, being a homeowner and being repossessed potentially, how we can stop that. And also, if you're a buyer, you want to be buying assets, giving you the insight of the type of work we do. So this is the typical work I do day in, day out. We do about 50 cases a month. So we're always busy. So I'm surprised we even get time to be on this show. But I think it's important to keep content creation, give updates, and let buyers out there be made aware of all the services we provide. So hopefully this has been a very useful and detailed enough video to give you a comprehensive overview of what we can do to assist you to grow your portfolio to the next level. Likewise, anybody out there who's facing any sort of issues with litigation or finance or anything, we are excuse me, the leading experts in the market. And so there we go, Lakhi Singh, the property fixer, here to help you to take your portfolio to the next level. So do get in touch. And if you want to find out more, you can go to www.rescuemyproperties.co.uk, or you can DM me on any of my profiles on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on the Alternative Property Business Solutions community group. So tons and tons of resources for you. And I'm always happy to help, always got a smile. Just love to help people, to help you grow, help you deal with any problems. So the love is there. So take care, guys. And hope you have a great, great week. And thank you for listening to Lakhi Singh, the property fixer.